All right. Welcome to the Rent Report, all things landlording and property management across this great country of Canada. Out east is my co-host, Hart Togman, CEO of Rent Panda. My name is Mackenzie Wilson, a director here at Single Key, Canada's largest screening service. We're going to get into where should you rent? What is the best platform to rent to get the most amount of views? And how do you determine that? Some quick and easy actionable steps will come out of this short, less than 15-minute episode. Hart, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. That's a lot of pressure now. We can't ramble on because we've only got 15 minutes to do it. But I think we're doing good. But transparently, as a leasing and property management company, it is now harder than ever before to find quality tenants. And I think that this is a great topic as we go into November, December, when things typically slow down. So with a slower market, with a more difficult market to find tenants, you have to really optimize your advertising. You have to know where to list. You have to know where people are searching. So I think this is a great topic to dive into today with real advice for landlords who have vacancies right now.
Absolutely. Maybe let's just do, I'm going to throw it to you and I'll follow up on my side. A quick 30-second market update out east. Are you guys seeing decreases in rent prices? Have they stabilized? Are they going down? Is there an increase of surplus supply in the market? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, for sure. So rents have definitely been going down relatively consistently, but relatively slowly. So they're not plummeting. They're essentially stagnating with 0.2, 0.5, 0.7% decreases. But it really depends on the region. So when you look at the GTA in general, it is dropping, but some of the smaller markets, the tertiary markets, are still actually holding quite well. So you really got to look at market specific. But across the board, the quality of tenant is definitely decreased and the time to lease has gone up, which has created a bit of an oversupply. So we're definitely in a tenant market. Tenants have the choice of where to move. And I'm talking good tenants, right? Bad tenants are always going to be struggling, and you're going to get a lot of messages from less than ideal tenants. But high quality tenants have their pick of the litter right now with a lot of oversupply, a lot of properties sitting on the market for 2, 3, 4 months. And the sentiment across investors, landlords, and property managers is just that it's very hard to find a high quality tenant right now.
Interesting. You mentioned days on market increasing. Was it roughly before? What's it roughly now?
Yeah, but summertime, June, July, we were probably sitting around the 30 to 32 day mark. Now we're up to the 42 to 45 day mark. So it's quite a significant increase.
Yeah, it is.
And, especially in the condo market, things are sitting for quite a long time because there's a huge dump of the exact same condos on the market. So yeah, we're up into the 40s right now, which is not a good sign as an investor.
So that's a great pro tip for everyone listening that Hart just mentioned there. Well, I did talk about a general days on market for inventory. It is very much product and geographic specific. So you really want to be able to research that and understand your carrying costs as they're increasing specific to the product type that you have in the region that you operate in. Okay. Yeah, I don't have too much to comment on the Calgary side. I know we talked about the last time that price is balancing things a little bit slower. On my Facebook group, which I run, for you who don't know, it's the largest in Alberta for landlords. We got about 5,000 members. I have seen an increase in the frequency of, hi, I haven't got any leads. I'm struggling. Take a look at my rental ad kind of conversations too. So there's a similar segment, but also following up what you said, Hart, not plummeting, but on a decline.
And are there market dynamics that are specific to Alberta that are leading towards that? Is there an oversupply? Are quality of tenants dropping, or is it just cyclical because we are in the later quarter of the year?
Yeah, great question. So certainly the slowest time of the year for rental or resale in real estate. No one likes to move in the winter or around Christmas. So we're coming up to that. So there's some seasonal slowage for sure. And I also would attribute to it just from a market cycle perspective is, these things go up and down. We were on an uncomfortably high rapid increase and it was unsustainable, which means there's a correction at some point, which I think we are in that correction phase right now, which is also probably a factor into things slowing down. That said, though, I'd still say Alberta's fundamentals on the economic side still look really good. with the
Awesome.
energy industry and what's going on. Yeah.
Cool. So, I'm an Alberta investor. I want to post my property in this slow market. Where do I start?
Yeah, super fun question, Hart. And then we were kind of chewing back and forth how we'll hit this here. So there's probably three conversations we're going to have. I'll lay out the framework that it's easy, it's actual, how to actually determine this, and it's repeatable. I know, Hart, you've got some really cool tips specifically to niche down on some of the key platforms, particularly Facebook Marketplace. And then we got some general best practices as well that we can finish up the show with. So, yeah, number one question, where should I be listing? It's actually really quite an easy process. You simply put on the hat, the mindset, where the shoes from the tense perspective. You're going to do multiple Google searches for your product type with different terminology. And what you're doing is you're essentially looking at the top three or four organic results and seeing if there's that same common two or three players that show up listing platforms, for example. Key thing though is one, don't include paid advertisement at the top of your search results because Google likes to put paid sponsors there, and it usually has a disclaimer somewhere on that result saying paid advertising or sponsored. So look at the top three. Again, you're going to probably do 3 to 5 quick Google searches, maybe more depending on the terminology that you think people might use to search for that product. So great example is a condo, apartment, 2-bedroom for rent, a townhouse, whatever. Focus on that type of unit and different ways to describe it, and take note of the top results. And that's it. That's the quickest and easiest way, because what you've just done now is Google is showing you the strongest, most popular results for your area. Well, yeah, and make sure you have a geographic kind of tag on it. So it'd be, 2-bedroom for rent, Calgary, 2-bedroom rent for Thunder Bay, because the platforms Google will share results based on most popular platforms in a local area and for a product type. And sometimes a third factor too, it's a little bit harder to kind of determine, is there's different demographic trends that will favor one platform over the other. So that's kind of it. The only big kind of caveat I used to talk about, which I think has just changed this year, and I think you're kind of sharing something too, is Facebook used to be this big wild card. Obviously, they've got 9 billion users around the world, an absolute big marketplace, but they had a closed system, an account only access where Google can actually publicly index and display those as search results. I just noticed this Q3 this year in 2024, for the first time, organic Facebook Marketplace leads showing up in the search results. I've never seen that before. So there's some changes going on, and I think that makes Facebook a really powerful platform. So I'll throw it to you, Hart. What would be some great pro tips around how to leverage the Facebook platform?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting topic because the inception story of Rent Panda was actually as a rental marketplace. And we were trying to beat out all others to build the pinnacle of a rental marketplace for landlords and tenants to connect. And about 5 years ago, we saw the trend of Facebook moving into the space with their rental housing initiative on Facebook Marketplace. We had a quick but behind the scenes conversation with someone who was leading that program, and there was a pilot program happening in Canada. And Facebook was driving pretty hard to own the rental housing space on Marketplace. And like you said, billions and billions of users across the world. They injected their presence quite heavily, and they've overcome most other platforms. So yeah, it's an absolute game changer when it came to where to market. And I think to your point about Facebook allowing Google to index their rental listings, that's a very distinct choice that they've made to open up and allow that, which really shows where they're going to go in the future. They want to be found as a marketplace across the entire spectrum of the internet, wherever you're searching, not just within Facebook itself. We actually saw this happen on Instagram as well. Instagram is owned by Facebook. And so if you're doing posts, video posts, if your realtor is posting photos about your rental listing, those are going to now be indexed. So Instagram stories, Instagram reels, and Instagram posts are also now being indexed by Google by the looks of it. So it is really a tidal wave of change. And in our organization, 75% of all completed rentals, completed applications and leases started out on Facebook or with a Facebook inquiry. So it is quite strong.
That's domination.
Yeah. And this has only happened in the last 3 years. So it's quite strong. But I do agree that within your geographic region, within your asset class, you need to do that search, Because if you're renting out, student rentals in a semi-detached home in Thunder Bay, then it may be different than a condo in downtown Toronto or in Calgary or wherever you end up being.
Yeah.
So you really got to know that. With Facebook in specific, 75% of all leads are going to come from Facebook. Let's call that the stat that we're using for now. You want to make sure that you know Facebook. And even in a smaller market, I would assume that Facebook accounts for 40, 50, 60% at minimum. And so you really want to make sure that when you are posting out on Facebook, you're doing so to optimize the traffic. And when you think about Facebook and other rental marketplaces too, they want something. And what that something is engagement. So Facebook is a social platform, a social media platform like any other. They want people to spend more time on the platform so that the paid advertisers get more impressions. And so for them, it's about keeping you on platform. Now, as someone who's advertising on Facebook, how I win and how we win for our clients is making sure that we're posting content that shows Facebook people want to engage with our content, right? And so whether you're selling a shoe or a tennis racket or a rental house, if you are providing a product that people want to engage with, Facebook is going to reward that. And that's really how things go viral across social media in general. The algorithm picks up that there's interest and it pushes more interest because something is interesting. And that self-fulfilling prophecy creates that viral trend. So with posting on Facebook, some really key things to do are make sure your photos are really great, because if someone is scrolling through hundreds and hundreds of listings, you want what we used to call in the advertising industry thumb stopping power. So, someone is scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, get them to stop scrolling with some good photos, some great videos. Don't think too much about your rental description because people aren't going to read it until they've actually usually booked a showing. And then, take advantage of a couple key tricks where your first 48 hours is really crucial. So when you post out, send your listing to some friends and family. Post it on various groups, rental groups, aside from just Facebook Marketplace. Because again, if you show Facebook that people are engaging with you right away, then it will then boost that post automatically. Yeah, so that's just a couple. And then a couple other tidbits on Facebook are one, pay to play, right? So Zuckerberg wants all of our money. So give him a little bit of that money. And again, paying for those impressions, even if it's $5 or $10, will really then boost further impressions because impressions breed impressions. And then second is make sure that you're responding in a timely manner. So don't be that old school landlord that gets all of their messages and waits 2 days to respond to them all, thinking I'm going to stack up 100 messages and then get back to them all. When someone is messaging on platform, not only is your immediate message back going to stop them from scrolling and engaging with others, which will then push more engagement to you, but if you stop them and actually engage in a conversation within Messenger about your listing, that again cues Facebook that there's engagement. Because if you're on platform messaging, Facebook goes, oh, great, let's send more people to this highly engaging landlord who is trying to sell this product or rent this product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's some really interesting, like these snowball analogies of a little bit of effort and timely responses up front, magnify down the road the longer your listings on the platform to drive the most amount of traffic possible. A question to you, Hart, as I kind of dig through this. I've always shied away being a person to list on Facebook Marketplace for a couple of reasons. I can talk about the market specifics too, but from just a general end user, I have to use my private Facebook account and my profile and that information shared. So do you got any tips or suggestions around, should I be using my private Facebook page? Should I create a business page? Should I create a second Facebook account? Pros and tips or cons between these three different strategies?
Yeah. It's one that we've struggled with as a company for a long time. So the first thing to point out is that unfortunately, a group or a business page cannot post on Facebook Marketplace. You would have to create a store and then showcase that store, and it just doesn't hit the same traction and algorithm. So it has to be a personal page from Facebook's perspective. You could start a page that's called, your business name, but it is a personal profile. The problem is that Facebook over the years with more and more marketplace traction has gotten smarter in terms of who it provides traction and engagement to. So if you have a new profile that you've just created with no Facebook history, with no previous listings, with no social media presence in general, then Facebook isn't going to promote your product as much as others. It's not like a Kijiji marketplace where you post it up and it gets showcased to anyone seeing the page. There's no page results. It's really things are showcased to people when Facebook thinks they would be interested in it. So ultimately, a page with longer history, a page with more social media presence, a page with more engagement is going to breed better results. And you, as Mackenzie Wilson, may have sold a tennis racket 6 months ago. Your experience selling that tennis racket will actually help push your rental listing that you post. Yeah, so there is a benefit to it for sure. But I would say if your long-term plan is to be a landlord for 20 years with 10 plus rental listings, it may make sense now to start up that new page that is more behind the veil and build the profile of that page. So don't just start a page and have no friends and be included in no groups, and make sure you're starting that page and having interests, following other groups, engaging with people. You kind of have to build a social presence, and then you can start utilizing that for the listings and maybe sell a tennis racket or two.
Love it. Yeah. And something that I've been doing unintentionally, but now I think it's benefited me, is I've used Facebook Marketplace to buy a lot of used stuff. I've always followed up and say thank you and responded back. And as you just kind of said, try to be engaging upfront and quick responses. So I wonder, even on the buying side, if you're around shopping, you reach out to 20 people and you only respond back to 2. And I have also done that in the past. Maybe those are things to take into consideration on the brand value of that Facebook profile if you're going to start using it for marketing your rental listings.
100%. And you can see the progression through Facebook over the years. Now it's your marketplace profile is a profile unto its own. So they call it like a seller profile. And now there's a rating. And when you complete a transaction, you get a survey of, did you complete this transaction? How did it go? Yes. Rate this person. And it used to be kind of only at the end of the experience when you unlisted. And now Facebook is actually reading those conversations. And if it detects a transaction has been completed, you talk about pickup time, and then that pickup time elapses, Facebook will actually prompt you with saying, has this transaction completed? Would you like to rate this seller? If you say things like, thank you so much, I love this, or you book a showing, you're going to get prompted. So Facebook is smart. It's gathering, amounts of data that we can't even fathom. And my guess and my bet would be Facebook Marketplace will continue to push down this realm of investment. And so it makes sense to start investing in your education on how to get to the top of those competitive ads.
Yeah. And I think to add on to that, Hart, that totally makes sense, is this, and hence the name meta. So metadata from a technical perspective is all these nuanced pieces of information about a particular file or image or something in particular. But the easiest example, if you go to a PDF and you go on the properties, you can see when it was created, when it was modified, who the author is, the publishing software, if it was edited by an editing software, all these nuances that go in there. And to that point, one of the other things I noticed, I don't know if that came in this year, you can help me iron this one out, but I noticed now Facebook Marketplace gives you the average response time of the seller. And so that's metadata that you need to look good by having a decent response time.
Yeah. And all of these evolutions are going to lead to Facebook being a dominant marketplace player. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get into buying and selling homes. I wouldn't be surprised if the seller profiles become more of like social clout or social currency, essentially.
Social gold, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because your response times, your transactions, or ethics in engaging with people can definitely have repercussions across the social media spectrum for sure.
All this information is being collected and it's just generally being organized into better and better, more usable experiences. And there's always become more and more data points, and the thing I've talked about in the past with TanScreen coming on available online to showcase who you are. So it comes back to just work with honesty and upfront transparency, and you're not going to have an issue. The other thing I want to kind of add, and I think you made a cool observation, Hart, was I've noticed out west, some of the different platforms, especially some of the older ones, you get really unique demographic trends out of them. So for example, when I list on, say, Kijiji or Craigslist, Kijiji seems to get a lot of out of province interest, particularly out east from Ontario, from people looking to move to Alberta. When I have done and used Craigslist, is a lot of international interest, new people that are not even in the country looking. And then going back to our initial strategy, talking about practicing the multiple searches on different terminology for your unit and looking at the top organic results. Ours in Alberta, for example, in Calgary, is Rent Faster, which is a amalgamation of a bunch of different listing platforms under one primary business called RentSync. And that will drive different demographic and interest within Calgary for most of our market versus literally 3 hours north Edmonton. They're completely different. Rent Faster has no good credible value. So,
right. Yeah. And I think we see that here too, not as extreme because Facebook has become the very overly dominant player, but especially, in the GTA or within a few hours of the GTA, anywhere where realtors have incentive to be involved in the rental industry, which is typically higher rents, realtor.ca and the MLS, right now we're seeing about 9 to 10% of closed deals happen there. And again, within the Golden Horseshoe, you've got rentals.ca, you've got Zumper, PadMapper is still kicking around. In the core of Toronto, viewit.ca is still kicking around. But when you pop out, again, not that far, just 3-4 hours east to Kingston or up to Barrie, certain platforms just completely fall off and they're not usable at all, or you'll get no traction. And I'll say very, very overtly, Rent Panda started in Thunder Bay. And we had this idea to become the dominant rental platform. And in Thunder Bay, there's Facebook and there's us. And there's not really much else. There's a little bit of Kijiji. But and people are using it, and we get 25, 30,000 unique users a month through the platform in Thunder Bay alone. And then you go out and down to Toronto, where I am now, or out to Guelph or out to Kingston. No one knows what Rent Panda as a platform even is. They don't even know the existence of it. And so it's highly, highly regionalized. And in provinces as large as we operate in, you really have to be conscious of where your equivalent listings are and where your tenants are.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to follow up with a couple pro tips on that, because I think those are some great points. One pro tip here. So one pro tip is the structure of the experience in the ad. So thing to be cognizant of is how your listing is displayed to the end user, and keep in mind both from a desktop and a mobile experience. So will be different character cutoff lengths for your title. So structuring the verbiage that you get at least the key message across before it gets cut off on the desktop versus the mobile experience. It's kind of similar to like a subject line in an email. The next thing is what's being displayed first. Is it an image? How big that image, that real estate for that image is? Because if it's a lot larger, you could show a more detailed picture of, say, the interior. If it's pretty small on the mobile device, maybe a further back photo of the outside house with a well-landscaped exterior and green grass will showcase better than zooming into a kitchen where on the phone it's really hard to see any valuable details to show the quality of the unit. So a couple tips around there, and then shoot another one. I can't remember. We'll edit that part out.
Well, I'll just add that even within platform, what we often do is look at the competitive set, which is other investors and landlords posting their properties. And if everyone in that 1-bedroom condo range has a kitchen picture first, then put the amenity, right? Put the beautiful gym, put the beautiful balcony, put the building, just to stand out. Because on that mobile device, I think it's upwards of 94% of all tenant searches happen on mobile. So you need to think about mobile for sure. Every single one, people search within a subset of the listings out there. If every single one is the same looking kitchen, essentially, and then all of a sudden there's one that looks different and it's a beautiful gym, they're going to stop a little bit longer on that one. So just being different within the competitive set is important too.
Yeah, I really like that, Hart. And again, whatever platform you land on, look at all the unique features they're trying to put in front of you for tools to make that ad, fall in that same adage, look unique and different against the local competition. So do they have a unique link to capture YouTube videos or video or multimedia? So if there is an opportunity to add a video to your listing, you should definitely be adding a video to your listing. And then what was another? My brain shot now. I think I had some more stuff to go through, but yeah.
All good. All good. Yeah. So, I mean, I think ultimately really understanding your marketplaces, doing the research is important. And the last thing that I'll point out is that going back to being an investor, you need to be true to who you are. And if you are not going to be someone that's going to be across four platforms, and I say this with a bit of Ontario bias, but there's lots of platforms that will make up the entire rental segment. And as a business, we typically try and post out across the top 3 to 4. If you're a landlord and investor that's like, I don't have the time, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to do a bad job of it, choose the one that really dominates and become an expert in it. You don't have to be everywhere. You should be in a couple of places, but you don't
Well, that
have to
was
be
my other pro
everywhere.
tip. Exactly.
I stole yours.
I love it. No, but no,
Yeah,
you're totally right, Hart. Is there, yeah, there's certainly a time and effort to do multiple ads. It does basically multiply the administrative side of setting this up and maintaining it. I think it's at least critical understanding and testing the market at the very least if you're only going to choose that one critical platform. But if you can, at least be in 2 or 3 places, because these things are not stagnant markets by any means. They're dynamic. There's trends going up and down. And again, at the end of the day, it's like a sales funnel or a lead funnel. You need as many eyes at the very top of the funnel seeing your ad as you filter down through inquiries to leads to book and viewings to doing your due diligence to finally selecting that one candidate for your lease. The bigger that top side of your funnel is with more initial views and impressions, makes the rest of that process easier because you need, at the end of the day, ultimately have choice to find the great tenant. And ideally try to be in at least 1 or 2 or 3 places, because then you can see if you're getting the quality of inquiries from platform A versus platform B.
sure. Awesome. And I think we've got another episode in the coming weeks to talk about how to evaluate if your advertising is actually working or not. So I'm tempted to jump into that now, but we
Yeah.
won't. We will hold off. And I think for there, we'll wrap it up, and we will see you next time.
See you guys on the next one. Where's the stop button? Mine's not working. It says starting, and it hasn't given me the stop button. Do you have the stop button on the very bottom on the left-hand side of those things? Share the window.
I have a leave button, but that's about it.
Yeah, me too. So this should say stop, but it's grayed out and it's still in the starting. Okay, so I got 99. You got 99. I'm going to hit leave. Hopefully this doesn't wreck the thing button now.
Perfect.